They told you it was just a wall, a long crumbling line of stone cutting through the mountains of northern China, a relic, a ruin, a tourist attraction. But they never told you what it was really built to keep out. Because the Great Wall of China wasn't only designed to repel invaders. It was built to contain something, but from within their own minds. Secrets buried in mortar and ash. A truth so ancient, so volatile, that even the emperors feared to speak it aloud. Beneath the surface of this vast snaking monument lies a story of obsession, of dynasties driven mad by invisible enemies, not just from across the steppes. This wall is not just defense, it's memory. What moved through the night skies before the Mongols ever rode. Longer than the textbooks claim, and its purpose. More terrifying than any battlefield tactic. They praise the engineering, the strategy, the sacrifice. But they forget to mention the wall's most important function. What the Han, the Qin, and the Ming knew, but refused to record in scrolls. And entire fortunes to build a barrier so vast, so brutal, that it can be seen from space. Stone by stone, fear was carved into the earth. That countless laborers, peasants, scholars, prisoners, were buried alive within the wall itself, silenced to ensure they never revealed what they saw. And what if I told you that many of the stones contain the bones of those who built it? No one talks about what the Great Wall was hiding. The Great Wall is older than you've been told, a fear carried through dynasties, a darkness sealed in stone. It wasn't just a symbol of power, it was a warning. And yet, the warnings were erased. History books call it a marvel. To guard what must never be remembered, but not as tourists. As investigators, as seekers of suppressed memory. Ask yourself, why would one of the greatest civilizations in human history devote generations, millions of lives? Why was this obsession so complete, so absolute? Because the wall wasn't just meant to keep the world out. It was built to keep something in. We were going to walk the path, from the western deserts of Gansu to the emerald mountains of Liaoning. You're not just here to learn history. You're here to unlearn the lie. Because behind the myths of glory and conquest lies something far older. And once you hear what the emperors feared, once you see what the wall really guarded, you won't ever look at China or human civilization the same again. This is not a monument. It's a tomb, and it's whispering. Let me show you the birth of an obsession. The year is 221 BC. The warring states have been consumed by blood, betrayal, and fire. And at the center of this chaos, a man rises. Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. Ruthless, visionary, terrified, but not terrified of foreign armies. Not yet. You see, before he unified China, before he even dreamed of a wall, he was already hunted by something ancient. Whispers in the mountains. Dreams of a black wind carrying voices from the north. Entire libraries. Knowledge of the old dynasties gone in smoke. Scholars who questioned his actions. Buried alive in mass graves. The history you were meant to know was silenced. The old shamans called it the breath that walks. A force older than heaven that corrupted minds and turned men to beasts. Walls, massive, unending walls. He began searching for immortality, not because he feared death. No one dared open it. But because he feared what waited for him after. He sent ships to find the islands of the immortals. He drank mercury elixirs. Slowly, he poisoned his mind. Tens of thousands of men. Every mile constructed with geometry and direction tied to celestial maps. Not for beauty, but to trap something. A net to hold back what was leaking out. Bound in chains. Dragging stone through the freezing winds of the northern frontier. About order, about progress. They died by the thousands, but they kept building. When Qin took power, his first command wasn't to build. It was to burn hundreds of scrolls. Half of it was built over older walls, from dynasties no longer named. Some even say parts of the wall existed before China itself. Then came the orders. Because Qin wasn't just creating a kingdom, he was creating a seal. Each section of the wall was built not only with stone, but with ritual. Secret rites etched into the bricks. Ancient talismans buried at the base. This wasn't war preparation. It was containment. But something went wrong. The emperor became paranoid. Hallucinations, seizures, and then silence. The emperor died suddenly. His tomb sealed, booby-trapped with rivers of liquid metal. Crossbows set to fire forever. Because some say he isn't dead. Some say the wall wasn't finished in time. That the darkness broke through, and they entombed him alive with it. Deep beneath Mount Walee. That's why the Great Wall had to expand. Not as defense, but as a second line. And you, watching this now, have never been told this story. Why? Because if the truth of the Great Wall came out, we'd have to question every story we've ever believed about civilization. This isn't just ancient engineering, it's a monument to fear. Half of it lies in ruins now. And still, we call it history. We smile for pictures. We never ask what it's really holding back. If walls could speak, the Great Wall would scream. Centuries passed after Qin Shi Huang's death, but the obsession never faded. The Han Dynasty, the Sui, the Tang, they all kept building, rebuilding, extending. But not because of politics, not for glory, for something else. Let me ask you, why does a civilization invest in a wall that spans 13,000 miles across deserts, mountains, cliffs, wastelands? Because they were trying to trap something that doesn't sleep. Buried in ancient Han scrolls, ones long forgotten by the modern world, there are accounts of sky people coming down in fire, flaming chariots, strange visitors. And with them, they brought chaos, not technology, not wisdom, but madness. Survivors spoke of beings without faces, glowing red in the snow, whispering riddles that made men kill themselves within days. There were sightings along the northern frontier villages torn apart, livestock mutilated, strange glyphs burned into rock. So what did the emperors do? They assigned guards. Not soldiers, monks. The Xianbai Brotherhood. A now extinct order trained in celestial geometry, ancient exorcisms, and mind discipline techniques forgotten by time. They lived in the wall's towers, slept on stone, drank rainwater, and left behind scrolls inked in blood and gold. One scroll translated only partially reads, "If the breath reaches the southern river, the dream will awaken again. We must not sleep. We must not forget." The Mongol invasions? They weren't just political. The Mongol shamans warned of the old ones from the deep ice, pushing them southward in panic. And yet, we forgot. But their records hint at more disturbing motives. Some fortresses along the wall weren't designed for war at all. They had no viewports, no ladders, no towers. Just massive stone vaults built to keep something inside. Spine segments longer than any animal known to man. And next to them, inscribed plates made of an unknown alloy, engraved with a repeating symbol, an eye split by a serpent. A seal forged in desperation by men who saw too much and said too little. Modern tourists walk across it wearing sneakers and sunglasses. But underneath their feet are layers of history no textbook dares mention. Each breach in the wall didn't just lead to conquest. Locals speak of echoes at night, whispers in the wind that answer back. Tourists go missing. Technology glitches near ancient towers. And there's a section remote, forbidden, where even drones lose signal. It led to something leaking through. The Ming Dynasty came much later, rebuilding vast parts of the wall. Sealed chambers, some never opened to this day. Why? Because inside, they found bones human, yes, but also something else. Bones with spiral fractures that defied anatomy. Skulls with no eye sockets. Do you understand what I'm telling you? This wall is not a barrier between nations. It's a veil between worlds. And here's where it gets worse. The wall may be failing, because in the last 10 years, something has shifted. You were never meant to hear this, but now you have. And once your eyes are open, they can never close again. What happens when you build a wall, not to keep enemies out, but to keep something older in? Let's take you back to the Jiangkou section of the wall. Remote, crumbling, off limits to most tourists. Covered in mists that never burn off, even under a searing sun. But leaked private logs reveal something unsettling: audio footage of distant breathing, metallic clicks echoing off the stone, and one phrase spoken in Mandarin, backwards. Hikers who enter this zone often don't return. And when they do, they're not the same. A German expedition in 1998 entered Jiangkou with 6 members. Only 3 came back. No official story. We are beneath your time. Let me say that again. The wall doesn't just mark territory in space, it marks boundaries in time. The ancient Chinese may have discovered that history is not linear. It loops, and something ancient and malevolent is trying to enter at every weak point in the spiral. We are beneath your time. That's not poetry. That's a threat from something outside of causality. They weren't ruling over people. They were protecting them from what's buried beneath the loops of history. The Great Wall is not just ancient tech, it's a temporal lock. Until the moment they cracked it open. You think this is fantasy? Good. That's what they want. Now ask yourself, why did all dynasties, even when bankrupted, even when starving, still invest in restoring this wall? Like something deep beneath is radiating influence. And locals speak of children muttering in their sleep, sketching symbols they've never seen before, even when it made no sense politically or economically. Because the mandate of Heaven, China's divine legitimacy, depended on keeping the cycle sealed. One by one, they thought they could rise without respecting the seal. And now we modern humans march along its ruins, snapping selfies, blind to the trap we're walking into. But now, in the modern age, things are slipping. In 2003, during excavation for tourism development near Battling, workers uncovered an unusual vault sealed in molten stone. Archaeologists assumed it was a forgotten tomb. Inside, no bodies, no treasure, just a sphere. This isn't just about China. It's about all walls we've built through history, physical, psychic, spiritual, to hide what we're too afraid to face. Not made of jade, not bronze, but a black material that absorbed all light. And when light was shined directly onto it, it pulsed. Responded, not to touch, but to sound. The vault has since been sealed, and the Chinese government refuses to acknowledge it ever existed. But the whispers persist. Satellite images show strange patterns in vegetation around certain wall segments, fractal, repeating, recursive. This isn't superstition. It's pattern recognition. Every empire that ignored the wall's deeper purpose collapsed. The Yuan, the Jin, the Ming. This is the part where most men look away. But not you. You're here for truth, not comfort. And if you've made it this far, you deserve to awaken. Now, if you're ready to go deeper, prove it. Drop the phrase in the comments right now. The wall remembers. Type it twice. Let the algorithm know you see through the veil. And then, let's tear it down. They'll tell you the Great Wall was a symbol of strength, of unification, of empire. But if you dig deeper, beyond the propaganda of dynasties and the polished myths of tour guides, you begin to realize the wall was born in blood. It's estimated that over 1 million lives were consumed in its making. Slaves, soldiers, farmers, scholars, buried within the stones they laid. Buried alive. Let that sink in. The wall wasn't just built with human hands, it was built on human bodies. During the rule of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the same emperor who burned books and buried, scholars' entire villages were dragged into forced labor. They called it the Long Grave, not because of its size, but because every brick hid a death. Every 10th worker, randomly selected, wasn't just buried for punishment. He was offered, not to the emperor, not to gods, but to guardians beneath the soil. You want to know something darker? Ancient texts from the Han Dynasty texts that were banned, lost, and only recovered in fragments speak of a ritual. The wall demanded sacrifice, and it still does. In 2012, seismic scanners studying fault lines under the Jiayu Pass detected something strange. Rhythmic vibrations, not tectonic, not mechanical. Like heartbeat patterns, but on a massive scale deep beneath the earth, precisely aligned with old sacrificial sites along the wall. Coincidence? Or is the wall alive? A channel of life force meant to bind the spiritual energy of the land, hold balance, and prevent leakage of something dangerous into the world. In them, they warned of the deep watchers, entities that fed on memory, seeded despair, and whispered madness through the cracks in stone. And their one weakness? Structure, form, geometry. Not in a straight line, but through mountains, rivers, deserts, always weaving, always circling, never letting go. That's not architecture, that's binding magic. You see, most people walk the wall and think of borders. But in esoteric Chinese alchemy, the wall is described as a dragon vein. But here's the twist: what if it was never meant to bind ki? What if it was a containment system for something already corrupted? Have you ever noticed the wall twists and coils like a serpent? In recent years, modernization projects have destroyed large sections of the wall. Roads cut through it, apartments built on top of it. Tourists climb it, carve into it. And with every violation, the containment weakens. And the ancient emperors knew it. The few Taoist monks who survived the Qin purges passed down secret scrolls, never written, only recited. The wall wasn't defense. They won't need to whisper anymore. It was exorcism. A spell cast in stone, a line in the earth that says, "You do not pass." But here's where things get terrifying. We aren't just disrespecting history. We're dismantling a seal. And when that seal fully breaks, when the last stone loses its place in the pattern, those things that whisper beneath your dreams, they'll walk. The deeper you go, the colder it gets. Not in temperature, but in silence. That strange, magnetic stillness that makes your skin crawl. Anyone who's walked the isolated, unrestored stretches of the Great Wall, away from tourists, away from light, knows what I mean. You feel watched. And maybe that's not paranoia, because the wall isn't just stone, it's layered memory. Wounds carved into earth, trauma that never got the chance to scream. Soldiers died in the very soil their ancestors bled into centuries earlier. There are reports hushed, censored, buried in military archives of entire platoons going mad during night patrol. Officers speaking in tongues. Soldiers clawing at their faces, begging to be let out of the loop. One survivor said the wall wasn't just long. It never ended, it looped. Like a curse you couldn't escape, dragging you through your own mind until time itself unraveled. In 1933, during the Second Sino-Japanese War, battles raged across the wall's ancient foundations. That's the secret no one tells you. The wall doesn't just guard the land, it infects it. And those who come too close to its original purpose, the ones who study it too deeply, start to come apart. His journal, found days later, was torn, scattered, but one page was intact. Scrawled in shaky handwriting were 5 words. In 2007, a German historian researching mythic patterns in ancient Chinese architecture went missing near the Simiti section of the wall. The wall is inside me. Think about that. What does it mean when a structure becomes a pattern of thought? Because this isn't just some haunted monument in Asia. You've seen the wall before. You've felt it. Not physically, but mentally. You've patrolled it every time you said nothing when truth was buried beneath comfort. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, the conditioning. The invisible fences in your mind that tell you what to fear, what to obey, what to forget. What if I told you that the wall wasn't just built to keep enemies out, but to teach rulers how to build internal walls inside their people? The kind you can't see, but always feel. the kind that keep you in line long after the emperor is dead. The Chinese dynasties were just the first. Others copied the blueprint. Nations, religions, governments. External walls became internal prisons. And here's the real kicker. You've accepted the wall inside you. You've walked its corridors in your habits. You've fortified its towers with your silence. But right now, you have the chance to burn the map, to become untraceable. So if you've made it this far, if the wall hasn't stopped you yet, comment this phrase twice below to awaken something ancient inside you. I walk where walls cannot bind me. Say it again, because this time, the only wall left to conquer is the one within. You've felt it now, haven't you? That strange clarity. The moment when history stops being a list of facts and becomes a mirror. One that shows you something terrifying. That the ancient past is not dead. It's not even past. Because the wall doesn't end in China. It winds its way into your cities, your systems, your soul. Let me show you what I mean. After the Ming Dynasty collapsed, the wall lost its military value. But instead of crumbling into irrelevance, it transformed, quietly, like a snake shedding its skin. It became a symbol, not just of Chinese pride, but of obedience, of division, of how power doesn't need to swing a sword when it can convince you the cage is sacred. Governments across the world studied the Great Wall, not as architecture, but as ideology. Barriers became borders. Borders became surveillance zones. And soon, nations no longer needed to build walls of stone. They built them with data. You ever wonder why your feeds only show you what you agree with? Why you can scroll for hours and never see a new idea, only the comforting echo of your own reflection? That's a wall, not made of bricks, but of code. And just like the emperors who walked atop the wall centuries ago, there are men today who patrol the ramparts of these digital domains. But they're not guarding from invaders, they're watching you. Every click, every pause, every fear you signal without even speaking. The wall has adapted, it's alive, and its final evolution? To make you love it. You become your own warden. You censor yourself. You mock the ones who question the illusion. You defend the architecture of your own imprisonment, thinking it's freedom. Because here's the horrifying truth. When you internalize a wall, it no longer needs guards. This is not a metaphor. It's a warning. You see, the original wall, the one winding across the Chinese landscape, is just a fossil now, a monument. But the real wall, the living one, is growing. Quietly, invisibly, inside billions of minds. The ancient emperors couldn't imagine the power modern rulers hold. Because they no longer build walls to defend their empires. They build walls to create them, from nothing, from thought, from fear. And the only way out is to see it, all of it. To walk the edge of the old wall and recognize what it has become. So look again, that ancient monument you thought was history. It's a blueprint, and someone's still using it. This is where the illusion ends and where your eyes adjust to the dark. Because the Great Wall was never just about stones or defense. It was about psychology, about ritual, about the slow, careful shaping of belief over centuries until obedience becomes heritage and surveillance becomes pride. You were never meant to understand this. You were meant to visit, take a selfie, marvel at the engineering, then leave. But now you know. And knowing changes everything. The wall is a spell, a talisman against chaos. But like all ancient talismans, its power depends on sacrifice. Do you remember the rumors? The ones whispered in old villages near the wall? That workers, thousands of them, were buried inside it. That if they died during construction, their bodies were sealed in with bricks and mortar. That their spirits still walked the wall at night, restless, unfinished. Maybe it's folklore, but maybe it's a clue, because every empire that lasts must be fed, not just with taxes or loyalty, but with souls. The Great Wall is a monument to that truth, a structure held together not just by lime and stone, but by silence, by secrets. And those secrets are not ancient. They're modern, global. The idea of the wall now lives in drones patrolling borders, in AI analyzing your voice, in social credit scores, in biometric gates that decide whether you pass or stay behind. And all of it, every inch, is justified in the name of safety, of unity, of protection from the other. But who defines the other? And what happens when the wall no longer separates us from them, but you from your own potential? There's one last secret they never wanted you to know. The wall works only if you believe it's needed. But the moment you question it, not with rebellion, not with anger, but with clarity, it begins to crumble. So this is your moment. Comment the phrase, "I see the wall," twice below. Let the algorithm register your awakening. Let the world know you've crossed a line you can never uncross. Because once you see it, truly see it, you can never go back. Not to comfort, not to ignorance, not to the fake peace they offer you in exchange for silence. You've walked the wall now, not the tourist path, but the real one. The spiritual trench it carved through history and human minds. And as you return to your world, your devices, your cities, your routines, know this. The wall is still watching, but now you're watching it back. Stay aware, stay awake, and welcome to the other side.